And women who came with their sons were removing their skirts and blouse to disguise. So when I saw this scenario going on, and I felt something is wrong. If these women can disguise their children and mother is not here, what do I do? And I looked at the whole place. There is no avenue for escape.
They took us to certain quarters, and eventually the man was a captain. He ordered them to start shooting us.
Gunshots. People were falling. So when people fell, I fell with them. And they continued shooting and shooting and shooting. I lost count of time. I don't know how long. After some time, there was silence. And surprisingly, a lot of people stood up from all the bodies and fled into the bush. I stood up also, but I saw a cousin of mine who was lying not too far from me. He was shot on the head. My body was covered with blood, but I knew that I was. Crying.
That evening, some women were able to retrieve the bodies of family members. Joseph Noir's two brothers, aged 17 and 12.
Mom in the evening was able to identify their corpses, took them in a wheelbarrow, pushed them to the family house. They were buried. Never saw their corpses. Never saw their body.
But most were buried in mass graves, with no opportunity for required ceremonies.
Although I was so small, I could remember that what I saw, lifeless bodies. My dad was among those people that buried the dead. He left the house with shovel, then this scent leaf, put it in his nostril. We enabled them to stand the stench there.
It was after when they have decayed, you know, smelling all over the place, that the people there gathered and then dug a common grave and then started putting them there. There are so many, so many.
Many townspeople ran into the bush or across to the east, but troops remained in Asaba, and the threat of rape hung over the remaining women and girls.
We are forcibly married by soldiers. I have an auntie who was married forcibly by soldiers. Children were raped, and also even old women were raped too. And even when they see that you're a young girl, they will forcibly take you as their wife. That is, if you don't want to, they kill.
As people trickled back, they found the once thriving town deserted, houses burned and everything of value stolen.
We have no home to enter, no house to enter. Our house was burnt down. Everything. In fact, where we went, we had to be tying, you know, the bags they put rice and beans That's what we tied, because there was no clothes, there was nothing for us to hide our nakedness. A lot of children were shocked. You know, people were dying just like that. Some we ate rats. In fact, Asaba suffered.
Exactly how many died on October 7th is not clear. Between 500 and 800 seems likely, in addition to hundreds killed in previous days. Many families were decimated.
My immediate elder brother, with one following him, and one of my cousins, 3 of them were killed.
You need to know who my husband was. Harmless, no, couldn't harm anybody. He liked life, he liked himself, he was a lovely man. And he just snuffed him off life like that.
Was my favorite brother, and he was outstanding as a student. He was captain of cricket, captain of soccer. He was a sprinter. He was a sprinter, and he was in the Nigerian 4 by 100 meters relay team. So it was a great loss, you know, to the family. Of course, one tries to forgive.
Leo Samuel Isiche, and he was a teacher, a darling father. You know, we looked up to him so much. He was everything to us, and he wanted to bring his children up to make sure that they had education. I want people to know, because not many people know what happened, even my own children, because God knows why I had to survive, for me to have a story to tell. And that's what I'm telling you now.
For decades, the massacres at Asaba remained almost unknown outside the community. In 1967, the Nigerian press was tightly controlled, and few foreign news reporters were on the ground. In the words of Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, the Midwest Igbos had become the most vulnerable Nigerians. The war itself became internationally famous in 1968 after the federal government imposed a blockade, starving Biafra into submission in 1970. The silence began to lift in the mid-1990s, and some survivors testified to the 2001 Nigerian Human Rights Violations Investigation Commission, known as the OPUDA panel, which set the stage for more people to speak.
It was for us the first opportunity that we were going to have to even air the matter, but the aim was really to begin something by way of a healing process. If you wrong somebody and the person has an opportunity to talk about it, and assuming you show some contrition, you apologize, or you go some way into alleviating their pain and suffering, then the healing process can begin.
4 decades after the war, Asaba is a busy state capital looking to the future, yet the scars remain. These are visible in the derelict buildings that remain unrestored and on the bodies of those who survived. And they are invisible, borne by Asabans who have kept the memory of the cruel deaths of their fathers, brothers, and uncles. The people of Asaba do not want retribution, only to tell their story, allowing the massacres to become part of Nigerian collective memory.
After the war, the then head of state, the state's general government, said that the war was a war between brothers. no victor, no vanquished. Okay. But what happened in Asaba wasn't a war. There was no fighting going on in Asaba when the federal troops got there. No fighting whatsoever. Those that they killed were not soldiers. They just took them and lined them up and killed them. Even in the history books, in the military history books, there's no mention of it. It has got to be part of our history. Because if you don't have a history, you really cannot go ahead in life and go ahead properly. It's got to be part of our history. Nigeria is a mix of so many different people, different tribes, languages, religions, everything. I was born into this entity called Nigeria. I am proud, very, very proud to be a Nigerian. But so also, I am very proud to be female. I am very proud to be an Igbo woman. I'm very, very proud to be an Asaba woman. This country belongs to all of us equally. Nobody should be made to pay any price that is way beyond that which is necessary to keep the country going. We paid more than a necessary price during the war. Thank
you. Biafra, 7th of October 2022 is our Remembrance Day for our fallen fathers, mothers, men, women, brothers, sisters, and children that were gruesomely murdered at Asaba during the Biafran genocidal war Nigerians waged against Biafrans. We hereby declare Friday, the 7th of October 2022, a sit at home in BIAFRALAND.
Agalọk ya n'igodo na kii ịpụtakwa ihuri were maka na mọnwụ anyị ga-agba n'ilo, mọnwụ anyị na-agba n'ilo, mọnwụ anyị na-agba n'ilo,
ọ nụrụ karịa ibi o.
Hello everyone and welcome to Political Paradigm. I'm Terry Ekumi. My guest today is the Vice Presidential Candidate of the Labour Party, Senator Yusuf Datti Babahmed. Senator Datti, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you.
I think we're having a good conversation just after the commencement of campaigns, and I see that the Labour Party held nothing back and went straight to its commencement despite what's happening with the other parties. And I'm compelled to ask you, one, how campaigns have been since it's commenced a few days ago, and why the choice of just to kickstart this campaign? Was it a random decision?
Well, we mean business, and we got to work straight away, like we intend to do if by God's grace we win. The just was not our decision. It was not our choice. We honored the invitation of the Middle Belt Forum, who endorsed our movement and our party for the election. And boy, was it a good turnout.
It was. We did see the crowd. And
yes.
It leads me to this question. Since you mentioned the endorsement of the Middle Belt Forum, you've also been endorsed by the Afenifere. What do these endorsements mean for the Labour Party going into the elections?
It means a lot of support have been won. It means the hearts of people that identify with the cause of Afenifere and the Middle Belt are with us, it means we have their votes. It means they will continue working to get us more and more votes, and they will protect our votes. It means they will cooperate with us when we get into...
And are you anticipating the support of the Northern Elders Forum as well?
Yes.
Arewa Consultative Forum, to be specific.
Yes, we are. We're expecting the endorsement of every right-thinking, well-intended, socio-cultural, and for that matter, any other organization, union, or body. We're expecting their endorsement.
Let's talk about the Labour Party now, with regard to the campaigns. You know, for a party like the Labour Party, I dare say that at the beginning of this year, they did not think that they would have this level of support or be regarded as contenders for the seat of the office of the president. And I say that because of the past elections and where the Labour Party had come in those elections. I'm trying to understand how the Labour Party is in elections, and how prepared it is to handle the massive support it is getting. And some would say the good thing is that it has two experienced politicians on its side now. So how is the Labour Party preparing for something that it has never been prepared for based on history?
The people, the movers, are prepared for it. I give you two answers. Very quickly, we are focused game players. His Excellency Governor Peter Obi and my humble self. And the second thing I want to tell you is that history is full of first times. I hope my answer will not be a bit complicated to you. Whoever is thinking that Labour Party is surprising the kind of support getting only needs to reflect back some major events in history. There was the first time Europeans landed on African soil. There was the first time they colonized an African kingdom. There was the first time they decided to amalgamate. There was the first time they decided to decolonize. There was the first time we began to lead ourselves. There was the first time the military took over. A first time military handed to civilians. There was the first time civilian handed over to civilian, and a first time that a civilian sitting government was defeated by another civilian sitting government. And there is a first time that a party like a Labour Party will come from decent in obscurity to global limelight and national impact.
What is the strongest campaign point of your party with which it intends to sell itself to the Nigerian public?
Nigeria has never had such a combination of well-intended, capable leaders with requisite positive characteristics, deep commitment, strong commitment, and high capacity to deliver. This is the first point. The second point is that Nigeria has sadly been disappointed. I don't want to expatiate on that, but Nigeria has been disappointed. It pains me a lot to find myself in the same situation where some people, I would say, were, in quotes, higher than me, made promises without the slightest intent of fulfilling those promises. I'm uncomfortable, though, look, we've made promises. We've promised security to Nigeria. We've promised better economy. We've promised education, eliminating corruption. We have made these promises and always ready to reiterate those promises. But wait a minute. What is it that Nigerians have not heard? That is my point of view. Peter Obi believes in action, like I do. And the too much talking that was done 2014 to 15, and how they brought the attention of the world. And nothing happened. So whenever I want to speak and think that before us, politicians have been given that name, you don't achieve. We are different.
So how then do you react to those who say that you and Peter Obi are part of the old establishment?
That is very, very wrong. Peter Obi was a successful businessman, a banker of excellence, who was dissatisfied with how his state was. He contested in an opposition party, was denied. He fought for 3 years. He changed the political landscape of not just his state, Nigeria. Now, when he finished 8 successful years of good leadership in the state and was in need of practicing national politics, it became very necessary, painfully necessary, to join a national party. That's what happened. In 2002, I had every option of joining PDP because PDP had the government all the way from local government to presidential in my constituency. I joined the leading opposition party, and by Allah's grace, I defeated them. When I was elected to the Senate, I had every option of joining PDP. I didn't, and I joined. When I joined PDP, it was an opposition party, the leading opposition party, which was consistent. And by the way, it was with a great deal of reluctance that in 2017, December, I joined PDP because I established people's trust, if you remember it. It scored votes in 2019 elections. It was mine. I have the certificate right here in my office. After a certificate for people's trust, my people told me that, look,
Die Vergangenheit deiner Familie könnte voller spannender Geschichten stecken. Erforsche sie mit Ancestry und erstelle deinen eigenen Stammbaum. Jetzt mehr erfahren auf ancestry.de.
Well done, but if you really are serious about presidency, you need to be in one of the established national parties. Of course, there is no way I will ever join APC. Reluctantly, I joined PDP, which failed to learn its lessons. Culminated to when I was contesting governorship in May this year, and things I don't want to say were happening, and I simply withdrew. So we are not from that system at all. We're a break from the norm. That's the way to put it. We're a break from the norm.
Breaking from the norm has almost never really favored politicians, especially at the federal level. But let me ask you this, linked to that. Would you say that the Labour Party has broken into the north?
Yes. When I joined Peter Obi's ticket, I ran into a brick wall. Craftily, brick by brick, I disassembled that brick wall. Behind it was very tough soil. I have softened the ground. In my pocket are very strong seeds that I am planting those seeds, and they are growing very fast.
In the north?
In the north. And those seeds that I'm planting are those of awareness. I'm in the business of creating awareness. That is the 4 allegations, wild allegations against my principal. All I need to do was to turn the barrel against the fire of the arms. There is not even a single picture in the whole of Nigeria, not a single one, even with some reward, that they can show you of anybody made to wear an ID card. Come on. Not even a single record in any morgue or police station. Not a picture of any mosque being destroyed. I was so diligent having heard those big allegations, I went round, had people go round, can I just have one evidence to the fact of this? None. So I broke that brick wall. I became a victim along the way. Extent that some people tried to set me up against powerful religious bodies. But of course, by Allah's grace, it failed. When I stated that I simply want to be known as a Nigerian in the context of 2023 elections, a very proud, respectful, decent Muslim, Hausa Fulani that I am, done everything I can do for my religion, yet because some people think they have their ways with propaganda, felt they could set me up against. And I suffered a bit, but it failed. In the same way, those allegations against Peter Obi failed. That was a brick wall. Going into the north, who has suffered religious bigotry in the whole world? The Muslim Ummah in the north. Take Katsina State, take Zamfara State. I'm not ready. Who have suffered insecurity? They did. What was the bidding done in 2015? Religion and ethnicity. Well, now, please wake up. It is the era of competence and capacity. And the people are feeling it. I assure you, no Christian regime will ever reduce the number of prayers Muslims are to pray or the number of days in Ramadan. Nobody will do that. Go and pray all you want. Fast all you want. We're happy. Pray for us. My Christian friends say, please pray for us. And vice versa. Nobody will touch your religion. And look, that some sect, some has an agenda. Good. What is wrong with having an agenda? Have yours. Companies have agenda. Small organizations have agenda. Why shouldn't an ethnic group have an agenda? It's legitimate. They have a plan. Good. Is the plan to kill anybody? No. The plan is for them to have certain infrastructure, certain universities, certain banks, certain key appointments. This is quite legitimate and honorable.
You're a politician. You have won elections in this country. You would understand politics at the lowest level because you've represented wards and constituencies. Since you say that there's the level of awareness in the north has been improved, does this go to say that those who say that the Labour Party, the exposure in the north to even get up to 25%, do not know what they are saying?
They don't know what they're saying. They don't know. And listen, awareness has been very high in the north. What happens is that northerners tend to listen more to the politicians, and the politicians tend to have more impact on the populace in the north. Awareness is pretty high. And whoever thinks that Labour Party or Obedient Movement or Peter Obi as an individual now is not being welcomed in the north, they are making a huge mistake. I went to greet one of our elders, and this gentleman came in with all air of arrogance to say that, oh, you'll get a lot of experience in this contest. And I thanked him. And I said, the first advantage you give you is to meet him. I want to be fully underestimated. I want Peter Obi to be fully underestimated by the so-called master politicians, the owners of resources, the owners and masters of structure. We're nothing. He's just a businessman. I'm just an educationist. I'll leave them, they'll go and get experience. Let's go. I'm not confident.
You're not confident?
I'm realistic.
Are you even more realistic now when you look at the polls, the two polls that have been conducted in the past few weeks, which gave the Labour Party the lead over the established political parties?
I was elated by those results.
You believe those
I
stats?
do believe it. I do believe the results very much.
But it's been
remember,
questioned.
I'm a market person. I did forecasting. I did market. In fact, the founding company of mine, Research and Data, I'm all about markets, the information we get from markets. And the last one by Bloomberg came out 2% higher than the unofficial estimate I made. When I made those estimates, a very senior person said, Kai, you're optimistic. And I kept quiet. About 3 weeks before those polls, we spoke on the phone and I reiterated, sir, without arguing with you, sir, I wish to maintain that my 70%. Is that so? I said, yes, sir. And I think on Monday also, the polls came out. I snapped the page, encircled the figure, and I sent. We spoke this evening and he only laughed. So I was accurate, I was correct.
You know, those polls suggest that if the elections were to hold now, that those would be the outcomes. But the elections are about 4 months plus away. Some changes could occur in between. Could be positive, could be negative, could be for or against.
I can tell you one of the changes that will happen. I think today the dollar exchanged for 730 naira plus. It is fast reaching that number I told you of 750. Practically, it has nearly reached. The salary of the police and the army, the salary of nearly every public servant is fast becoming a joke. It cannot take you across. Before Christmas, expect a new hike in petroleum product prices. I'm not scaring anybody, please. But this is reality. Diesel and everything will go, and before Christmas, expect very long queues. Now, we should know from data past that insecurity correlates with cost of living. Even the ransoms collected have correlated with inflation. ASU is still on strike, for God's sake. The amount involved in just one individual's corrupt case is about 15% of the money that ASU needs. If that individual had not stolen the money and the government was able to pass that money to ASU, hold this now, 10-15%, we're on course. Our children will be in school by now.
Let me take you back to the polls. You say you do polls, you do research yourself, and there are those who say that those polls are not going to work in Nigeria because of the peculiarities of them. The hinterlands, the rural areas which are unreachable, are the question the parameters with which those polls were conducted.
Nigeria is not that much different from the rest of the world. We're speaking about methodology. Social methodologies are standard. But we don't want to get academic here. This facts of, for example, getting GDP data from remote local governments in their farmlands, on their farmlands, traders in the cities, and output of companies and all those. These are standardized methods used by credible international organizations. Where we differ is in the implications of certain statistics and in use of those statistics for policy. For example, they keep talking about recession and depression and recoveries. We know fundamentally there is cyclical recession and there is linear recession, the type that Nigeria suffers from. And you keep talking about GDP as the key statistic, or can I say criteria, in knowing whether you're going into recession or not. Now, I beg to differ, because the same stethoscope you use in measuring the heartbeat of an elephant, for example, that of China, you cannot use it to measure the health of a smaller economy, for example, Gambia. I don't want to say Nigeria because we're not small, but our figures are not impressive.
I'll have to ask you a direct question, because since your crowds have been gathering, politicians from the other parties, especially the established parties, have been saying that those are rented crowds. Those are the same crowds that you would see at the different rallies. So the direct question is this: are your crowds rented, or are they organic?
Hey! Wie läuft's mit deinem Lebenslauf? Probier's mal damit.
Wow, das war easy.
So angelt man sich die Jobs.
Stepstone. Jobs sind unser Job.
No, I'm not a crowd renter. And I can tell you that Peter Obi is not a crowd renter. Those are legitimate, bona fide, self-funded, organic crowds. I'm in search of a better word, because they are very, very decent Nigerians, and crowd is not really the right name for them. Maybe before we close here, I'll get the right name to use. But they deserve a better name than crowd.
Movement.
They are not, well, the movement is in a different context we're saying it. We're talking of when they're physically on the road. They're not crowds, for God's sake. They are Nigerians asking for their rights. Now, those established parties and the politicians who are saying this, what they are telling you is what they are used to doing. Because they cannot command those kind of crowds. Those crowds can never come out. Saturday, I was not in Abuja. I had gone to Kano because of the floods. We only received the videos that this is going on in Abuja. And I told him, Your Excellency, have you seen this? He said, let me see. That's when we began to see it around 10 a.m. We began to see those videos. Look, I don't even have the money for a crowd. I don't know Peter. I think even the way I know Peter, even if he has the money, he will not spend it on renting a crowd. We didn't bargain for it. It is our destiny we're meeting along the way.
Senator Dati, a few days ago, your presidential candidate signed the peace accord. I'd like to know how much faith you have in that piece of documents that all the presidential candidates have signed, except, of course, the APC presidential candidate who was represented.
There was a clause. It says so long as, or I think as far as the elections are adjudged, free, fair, and credible. But what it didn't include is who is to adjudge it. The cheats, or the victim, or the people. But in that kind of thing, the NPC have done a great deal of job. Do you know why I'm saying that? We really have people who love Nigeria. And I'm not saying this for him to hear. General Abdulsalami Abubakar is a true lover of Nigeria. He is in pain. He was going through medical attention abroad. He forced himself to come back. All the medication, there was no way he was going to miss this. But no one can force him to stay there, but we all know he could have done staying out there. We do have, you know, when you talk of the labor of our heroes past, we also have heroes around. General Abdul Salam and his committee have done well. I saw the pain in him for the first time using a stick to walk up, touching somebody to climb steps. This is a retired general, a very strong, healthy person, going to do this just to make sure that his country does not go up in flame. And how dare somebody are forced to stay away. But I'll leave that. What I'm saying is that I'm happy with the work they've done. Even if they did not specify the very last bit I wanted to hear, I think it is good enough. We have signed it. This election better be free, fair, and credible.
Are you confident that it will be safe as well? Because that's part of the reason for the peace accord.
Your question is too difficult for me to answer. There are people who have amassed wealth and are not going to die and leave it. And they're ready to spend it in becoming Nigerian president. So I don't know what they will use the money for. I can't answer that question. The basic tenets of the peace accord. What is a fact? Because they said we should do politics of facts. What is a fact? A fact is something that has happened. I'm not giving you the dictionary definition of a fact, the contemporary definition of it. Now, if I say there is insecurity in Nigeria, fact. The Nigerian naira has depreciated. There is corruption there, fact. At least the Attorney General, the Accountant General was kicked out of office. For that is in EFCC, all government, fact. If I state these simple facts, for God's sake, did I abuse anybody? I stated facts. Now, what are issues? Again, not dictionary, contemporary. Issues are what is going on. What is going on now in Nigeria? Nigeria is disunited. What is going on now in Nigeria is that there is unfairness rubbed in. Our diversity is being ignored. These are the issues going on. Why shouldn't every Nigerian aspire? And the issue is that rotation is a fact of life in Nigeria. There isn't enough time for me to tell you how it's gone. President Obasanjo handed over to Shagari when there was Chief Awolowo. Okay? President Babangida handed over to Shonekan when there was all his friends in the north. General Abdul Salam handed over to President Obasanjo while there was Shinkafi and others. President Obasanjo handed over to Yar'Adua while there was Tinubu and others, and Odili and others. Why is Buhari doing something different? I'm not saying this is going to be electoral, of course, but we don't want bigotry. And look, these are our brothers and sisters from the... Remember, I contested presidency in 2019, unapologetically. His Excellency Peter Obi was running mate to Atiku, who defeated us, and I was happy. Now, what are you saying? That if it takes the APC route, you're saying 24 years, humanly speaking, it will be, humanly speaking, 8 years of Tinubu, and humanly speaking, 8 years of Shetima. If it takes the Atiku route, it will be 8 years, humanly speaking, of Atiku. Why? These are brothers and sisters. Are they not Nigerians? Do they not have the capacity? Do they not know how to vote?
The people of the Southeast.
Do they not know how to make policy?
That's the people of the Southeast.
Yeah. Do they know how to make it? Now, what the definition of a President Peter Obi is that Nigeria has united. That unity, people don't really understand the context of it. Is that once you're happy and you've come together, you will work towards one national objective better. If it's to strengthen the economy, you will do better. If it's to fight insurgency and banditry, you will do it better. Not when you're disunited. Right now we're disunited, and that's why we're not achieving anything. And if it's fighting corruption, exposing all those, the moment we're united, we'll do it better.
So there's an image which was circulated on Twitter. I came across it first from the spokesperson of the APC. It was about Peter Obi when he talked about the Constitution. He talked about the fact that in 2016 there was a leadership issue. That the problem was more, I beg your pardon, that the problem was more about Constitution change than a leadership crisis. And in 2022, he's talking about the need for a leadership to change to address the issues in the country. My question to you is not to react to what he has said, but to find out from you what your thoughts are on the issue or the concerns or the problems within the country now. If we change the leadership to the Labour Party without addressing the issue of the Constitution, does it solve any of our problems?
Yes. Our problems now in Nigeria can be solved immediately with existing constitutional provision and existing laws and existing resources can be. What are these problems? Insecurity. Though you haven't picked it as a question to ask me, constitutionally we have the Nigerian Armed Forces. Constitutionally, the President Commander-in-Chief has the power to direct immediate resolution of our security problems. Constitutionally, the President Commander-in-Chief has the powers to direct every policy that will make this economy to recover, protect the value of the Naira, boost industrial production, agricultural production.
Wer schön wohnt, lebt schöner. Siegmüller.
Constitutional with existing laws, we can. It is when you want to then move up from there, move away from there, that you begin to talk of